Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. I've just spent the last 2 days on the World of Warships patch 0.5.9 test server, having a good dig around, finding out what's new, and bringing the news to you guys. And I don't know what it is about Wargaming Products test servers, whether that be World of Tanks or World of Warships, but they're like Mos Eisley. You will never find a greater hive of scum and villainy, and after 2 days I could feel my will to live starting to slip away. So I've called a halt to proceedings, and if I haven't found out everything about what's coming up in this patch after 2 days on the test server, well, tough. Read the patch notes because I just can't do it anymore. So, what's coming up in the next patch? Did somebody say German battleships? Well, yes and no. There are German battleships now available on the test server. The tech tree is there, it shows the German battleships. Unfortunately, you can't actually play them unless you're a super tester. So you can expect to see some of the German battleships in some of the random or co-op battles that you play, and possibly even the French Dunkirk class battleship. But we mere mortals can't actually get our hands on them just yet. Nevertheless, we can take a quick look at them, and while the stats aren't yet available and are subject to change anyway, the Scharnhorst in particular is outright overpowered and is going to be nerfed. We can at least take a good guess that while we're not getting the German battleships in patch 0.5.9, it's extremely likely that we're going to get them in the next patch, 0.5.10. Of course, that's just speculation. All it says in the tech tree is that they're coming soon. So let's take a quick look, starting at Tier 3 with the Dreadnought class battleship, the Nassau. This is unusual in that it features 12 283mm or 11-inch guns, which gives the Nassau the smallest caliber of main battery guns in all of World of Warships, even smaller than the Japanese Tier 2 battleship, the Mikasa, which has 12-inch guns. The difference here, of course, is that the Nassau has 12 of them, and the Mikasa, while the guns may be bigger, only has 4, and they're terrible. Next, at Tier 4, we have the Kaiser. 5 of these ships were built, all 5 were veterans of the First World War Battle of Jutland. The gun caliber increases to 12-inch or 305mm, and it has 10 of these guns mounted in 5 twin turrets. At Tier 5, we have the Koenig. Same 305mm guns as the Koenig, but they're in super firing turrets, which means all of them can be brought to bear on the same target at once. At Tier 6 we have the Bayern. This is the first German battleship to mount 380mm 15-inch guns, although the barrels are kind of short, so I wouldn't expect great accuracy for that. You need to be at Tier 7 with the Gneisenau, which also has 380mm guns but with significantly longer barrels. And, yep, torpedoes. Expect this ship to get nerfed before it goes live. It's been seriously overperforming. What's interesting about the Gneisenau is that here in World of Warships it does not have its historical armament. It's sitting there with a whole bunch of 380mm 15-inch guns. Now this was a planned upgrade for the Gneisenau and its sister ship, the Scharnhorst, although it never materialised, and the actual ships served with 280mm 11-inch guns. I think I would have probably preferred to play with that kind of armament on these ships. I mean, they were commerce raiders. They were supposed to get out there into the Atlantic and play hell with convoys with their rapid-firing, deadly accurate 11-inch guns, just tearing up merchant shipping and escort ships. Heavily armoured, fast. Imagine the Gneisenau as the ultimate cruiser-killing battleship in World of Warships. You never know. Things are still subject to change. Maybe that's how they're thinking of rebalancing the Gneisenau, because it definitely has been overperforming, according to what I've read, with those 380mm guns. At Tier 8, we have the sister ship of the Tirpitz, the Bismarck, probably the most famous battleship in all of German history. It'd be interesting to see how the Bismarck differs from the Tirpitz, the premium Tier 8, which is already available in-game. At Tier 9, the Friedrich der Grosse. Now this is interesting, and it's here where we depart into the realms of speculation. This is the H-39 class of battleship which was proposed to replace the Bismarck, but depending on which guns you fit to it, it's also the H-41 class of battleship. By default, in its H-39 configuration, the ship's equipped with 8 16-inch guns. However, there is an option to upgrade those guns to 420mm 16.5-inch guns instead, and that brings us to Tier 10. The Grosse Kurfürst at Tier 10 has the same 16 or 16.5-inch armament choices as the Tier 9, but it packs an extra gun in each turret, which means this monster carries 12 of them. Well, that's all very interesting, Jingles, but enough about what's not coming in the next patch. What did you actually see on the test server that we can expect to see when this patch goes live? Good question, glad you asked. The first major change coming in the next patch, which is going to be of immediate significance to everybody playing World of Warships, is the situational awareness, the 1-point commander skill, which works in exactly the same way, well, works actually slightly better than 6th Sense in World of Tanks. It's gone. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. It's still there, it's just no longer going to cost you 1 skill point. Now, everybody gets it for free. What will happen is that if situational awareness is the only level 1 skill that you picked, it's going to be replaced with basics of survivability. If you have any other level 1 skills, as well as situational awareness, you'll be reimbursed the price of the situational awareness skill. So you basically get a free skill point. This change to the situational awareness skill is all part and parcel of more general changes to the visibility mechanics in World of Warships. In particular, smoke screens have been revamped. You might have watched other games of World of Warships on YouTube and you've seen that when a ship deploys a smoke screen, these sort of dotted circles appear around it. What you're actually seeing there is a third-party mod for World of Warships which plots the precise location of your smoke screen so you know exactly when you've wandered out of concealment. Well, that's all now part of the basic game UI. Sorry, that's got absolutely nothing to do with the new visibility mechanics. I just thought it was funny. Because it is. Let's see if we can get his little friend too. It's not really much of a challenge, is it? It's not shooting fish in a barrel. Remember, cool destroyer captains don't look at explosions.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
Yeah, we get it. Battleships are idiots. That's enough stroking your EP for one video, Jingles. What about these visibility mechanics? What does it actually look like on the receiving end? Okay. Tier 8 Japanese destroyer, the Fubuki. It's co-op battle. Don't judge me, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody was in the random battle queue. This was the only way to get the video footage I needed. And a relatively controlled environment. Perfect for demonstrating the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Okay. I'm attempting to capture the alpha point. Enemy ships are heading in this direction. I'm just about to cross over the border into the zone and start capping. But, well, there are 3 enemy destroyers around and any one of them could be rushing ahead of these guys. So, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to pop smoke. Of course, I'm also going to fire some torpedoes down their throats to discourage them from getting any closer. I've popped my smoke generator and I have cut my throttle. It's very important that you slow down. The magic number is 12.5 knots. If you're going any faster than that, you will not stay inside the smoke screen. You can see just as I was slowing down, I have left the boundary of the first smoke circle, and there's the second smoke circle, so I'm still not detected. Also, my surface detection range is only 5.5 kilometers in this thing. But if there were any enemy destroyers traveling ahead of that cruiser and battleship, they may have detected me because I was going just that little bit too fast when I triggered the smoke generator. But now I'm nicely covered inside the smoke screen. You can see the boundary. It tells you exactly where you're safe. Of course, you're not safe from radar. So, you know, there's that. But previously, the only way to know for sure that you were actually safely covered within the boundary of your smoke screen was to slow down, pop your smoke generator, and cross your fingers. Either that, or install one of the various third-party mods that have been available that do pretty much exactly the same thing as that, except they're butt ugly. This is now built into the game UI. Oh, don't worry, bit of brasso, I'm sure it'll polish out. And I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure one of those is going to hit the Montana as well, which is nice. Bingo. Right. Now remember, the magic speed for deploying a smoke screen and staying concealed within it is 12.5 knots. But what if you don't dare slow down because you're a massive noob and you've been firing your pitiful little destroyer pop guns at a tier 10 battleship which has blown your cover? You're well inside the range of his secondary batteries, and if you slow down, you're dead meat. Well, that 12.5 knot safe speed only applies if enemy ships are ahead or to the sides. If they're behind you, you can go as fast as you like. Hell, you can even engage your engine boost in order to get out of detection range even sooner, because the smoke screen is in direct line of sight between you and the threat. Hell, you can even continue shooting at him with your tiny little 140mm destroyer pop guns and continue earning experience and credits for defending the cap. Other changes to the visibility mechanics extend to spotted aircraft. If an aircraft has been spotted by an ally but is outside of your visibility range, you will not see the aircraft, but they will appear on the map. So, paying attention to the mini-map is now even more important than ever. Next, there have also been some fairly significant changes to the armour of the US Navy battleships as well as the single Royal Navy battleship, the Warspite. Now, pay very, very careful attention. That is the USS North Carolina Tier 8 battleship as she currently appears on the live server. So this is not test server footage, this is the USS North Carolina as she appears in game right now. Now pay careful attention to the shape of the hull. Okay, you got it? Now let's see how she looks on the test server. And there she is. You see the difference? No, I can't really see the difference either. Test server, live server, live server, test server. She does look subtly different, but the differences are hidden by some clever texturing on the live server. So, to show you exactly what they have done with the armour of the American battleships and the Warspite, here's a handy diagram that Wargaming prepared earlier. This is the armour profile of the American Tier 10 battleship, the USS Montana, as it currently appears in the live server of World of Warships, and, well, you can quite clearly see that there are not a huge amount of polygons that have gone into making the armour profile of this battleship, and all of the American battleships are like this. If I can just use an example from World of Tanks, this would be like shooting at a mouse. Lots of big, blocky, flat, slab-sided chunks of armour for you to shoot at and get good penetrations on, because there's just, well, there's not an awful lot of angling going on there. What they've done on the live server is they've added a metric arse ton of more polygons to the armour profile, so it now looks like this. And now, instead of shooting at a mouse, you're shooting at an IS-7, which is an altogether more tricky prospect because of all those nicely sloped surfaces, all those angles that can deflect armour-piercing shells. So a lot of people have been on the test server saying, what's this that they've buffed the armour of the American battleships? They haven't. Well, not directly. The armour thickness of the American battleships is exactly the same. There's just a lot more detail to the armour, which makes it more likely that shots that strike at an angle are actually going to ricochet rather than penetrate. Of course, none of this is going to make the slightest bit of difference to your typical World of Warships herpaderp, who will happily continue showing the broadside of his battleship to the Fuso that's bearing down at him, with 14-inch guns blazing, and long may that continue. Otherwise, well, I like Citadels as much as the next guy. But if you do come across an American battleship player who understands that it's infinitely preferable to sacrifice a little bit of firepower later for not losing all of your health to one broadside now, they're going to give you significant problems. And sometimes, well, the only way you can deal with it is to get very honourable. Do you think he's realised yet? I think he knows what I'm going to do. I think it's too late. Too slow, Yankee Dog. Too slow for this son of the Empire. Ah, very honourable. Right, what's next? There's a new game mode coming in cooperative battles. It's called Assault. And it looks like this. Do not panic, do not adjust your sets. That is actually what Assault is supposed to look like. The matchmaker has not, in fact, just had a sudden and near-fatal brain fart. In Assault mode in random battle, you begin the match in possession of 2 capture points. Hold on to those capture points or you lose. You can win by either gaining 1,000 points by sinking a sufficient number of enemy ships, and if you're not entirely sure where to look, the game even gives you a little hint. There we go, some intelligence just popped up on screen telling us where at least 2 concentrations of enemy ships are. But this is not your typical co-op battle. Charging in all guns blazing is liable to lead to an early defeat because, well, you're outnumbered 2 to 1, and the AI, much like real players, love to shoot at the first ship that gets spotted. Nevertheless, it is a fun distraction, even if it's never going to completely replace player versus player combat in random battles, ranked battles and team battles. Must stress that Wargaming aren't attempting to go down the armoured warfare route here by making PvE equally competitive to PvP. The rewards for playing co-op battles haven't changed. They're still just as miserable as ever. If anything, it's more an alternative game mode for when it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you need your World of Warships fix, and there's just hardly anybody playing. Queue times in cooperative battles never exceed 30 seconds. If you've been in the queue for 30 seconds, it'll populate your team with bots as well, and away you go. Finally, I have to give a shout out to Vaxer on the World of Warships subreddit, who's been diligently digging through the game client and discovered a whole bunch of features coming in the next patch that have somehow managed to not get mentioned in the patch notes. If you're the proud owner of any of the Tier 3 or 4 cruisers or any of the Tier 4 destroyers, then rejoice, because you're going to get preferential matchmaking. As things stand at the moment, the Tier 3 cruisers can get into Tier 3, 4 or 5 matches, and the Tier 4 cruisers and destroyers can get into Tier 4, 5 or 6 matches. Well, with the release of this patch, that's going to be a thing that passed, and your matchmaking spread will be no more than one tier in any direction. So, Tier 3 cruisers will only ever see Tier 3 or 4 games, and the Tier 4 cruisers and destroyers will only ever see Tier 4 or 5 games. This preferential matchmaking also extends to the Tier 6, 7 and 8 aircraft carriers. This will be particularly good news for Tier 7 aircraft carrier captains like the Hiryu, the Ranger and the Saipan, as you'll no longer be expected to fruitlessly send your aircrews to their deaths trying to penetrate the anti-aircraft defences of the USS Iowa. So, there's that. Speaking of anti-aircraft defences, the USS Atlanta, the premium Tier 7 American cruiser, is receiving the radar consumable. And we've also spotted something that looks very sort of Atlanta-like lurking around on certain maps. It's the USS Flint. Now, I haven't seen the stats of the ship, but again, thanks to the diligent efforts of the guys on the World of Warships subreddit, I've got some screenshots, and there's a reason why this looks a lot like the USS Atlanta. The Flint was an Atlanta-class cruiser. What's different on the Flint, however, is that it's lost a couple of those side-mounted 5-inch gun turrets, and they've been replaced by even more 40mm anti-aircraft guns, because that's what the Atlanta needed most, wasn't it? More anti-aircraft firepower. It's a strange choice, though, because, well, here's the thing about the Atlanta. All of those 5-inch gun turrets are dual-purpose guns. They're main battery guns, and they're anti-aircraft guns as well. So if you take away the Atlanta's additional 5-inch gun turrets, replace them with 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns and call it the USS Flint, what you're actually doing is reducing the Atlanta's overall main battery firepower, reducing the Atlanta's long-range anti-aircraft firepower, and buffing the Atlanta's mid-range anti-aircraft firepower, and I don't really see the point. I'm also not entirely clear on how you actually go about acquiring the USS Flint. As best I can tell, it's the North American server Ranked Battles reward ship for people who achieve Rank 1 status. Who knows, perhaps it'll appear on the EU server in the next season of Ranked Battles as a reward ship as well, and I'm sure the ship collectors will be grateful to get their hands on another unique premium ship. Finally, as is pretty standard by now for World of Warships, there are rewards available for your live account for participating in the public test. And this has actually just reminded me of something fairly important that I forgot to mention. You'll get 5 signal flags of each type on your live account for winning 3 random or co-op battles on the public test server while in a division. The reason they want to encourage people to play on the test server in divisions is because they're introducing in-game voice chat for players who are playing in divisions, which is fairly important and something I completely forgot to mention until I was looking at the rewards you were getting for playing in the public test. You can also get 1 day of premium account time on the live server for winning 10 random or cooperative battles on the test server while playing in a US battleship. Obviously this is designed to encourage people to try out the new Armour Profile of the US battleships. And you can get 10 Type 6 camouflage patterns, which will give you 100% bonus experience per battle on the live server for winning 10 random or cooperative battles in a destroyer. These rewards will be delivered by a bonus code which will be sent to your registered test account email address on the day of the release of the update, or slightly after. Blah-de-blah-de-blah, terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to participate in the public test, then link down below in the video description to the public test guide. It contains everything you need to know to get started on the World of Warships public test server. And that is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.